Welcome to this deep dive into one of the most influential and controversial works in political philosophy, The Prince, written by Niccolò Machiavelli in 1513. This book, often described as a handbook for rulers, has sparked debate for centuries, with some calling it a cynical guide to tyranny and others seeing it as a pragmatic manual for navigating the brutal realities of power. Over the next hour, we'll explore the historical context of The Prince, Machiavelli's life, the key ideas in the book, a chapter-by-chapter overview, and its enduring relevance in modern politics and leadership. Whether you're a student of history, a political enthusiast, or simply curious about this infamous text, this video will unpack the complexities of Machiavelli's thought and challenge you to think about power in new ways. Let's begin with the man behind the book, Niccolò Machiavelli, born in Florence, Italy, in 1469, during the vibrant but turbulent Renaissance period. Florence was a city-state buzzing with art, culture, and commerce, but it was also a hotbed of political intrigue, constantly threatened by internal factions and external powers like France, Spain, and the Papal States. Machiavelli grew up in this chaotic environment, which shaped his sharp, realistic view of politics. He served as a diplomat and official in the Florentine Republic, traveling across Europe, observing rulers, and negotiating alliances. His experiences exposed him to the ruthless strategies of figures like Cesare Borgia, a cunning and ambitious leader who became a model for some of the ideas in The Prince. In 1512, the Medici family overthrew the Republic, and Machiavelli was exiled, stripped of his position, and even tortured. It was during this exile, in a small village, that he wrote The Prince, hoping to win favor with the Medici and regain a role in politics. Sadly, he never achieved this, and the book was published posthumously in 1532. What makes The Prince so unique is its departure from traditional political writing. Before Machiavelli, most political treatises were rooted in religious or moral ideals, advising rulers to be virtuous and just. Machiavelli, however, took a different approach, focusing on what works in practice rather than what should be. He argued that a ruler must prioritize power and stability over morality, famously stating that it is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. This idea shocked readers, earning Machiavelli a reputation as an advocate for ruthless ambition, but was he really endorsing tyranny, or was he simply describing the world as he saw it? To answer this, let's look at the structure and content of The Prince, which consists of 26 short chapters, each offering advice on acquiring, maintaining, and expanding power. The book is dedicated to Lorenzo de' Medici, a strategic move by Machiavelli to appeal to the ruling family. In the opening chapters, Machiavelli classifies different types of principalities, or states, such as hereditary ones, where power is passed down through a family, and new ones, acquired through conquest or fortune. Hereditary principalities, he says, are easier to maintain because the people are accustomed to the ruler's family, while new principalities require skill and ruthlessness to secure. He uses examples like the Duke of Milan and the King of Naples to illustrate his points, drawing from history to ground his advice. One of the most fascinating chapters is on mixed principalities, where a ruler annexes new territory to an existing state. Here, Machiavelli advises that a ruler should eliminate potential rivals, including the former ruling family, and establish colonies to maintain control. He cites the Romans as masters of this strategy, emphasizing the importance of decisive action. Another key theme is the role of fortune, or luck, in politics. Machiavelli compares fortune to a river that can destroy everything in its path unless controlled through preparation and foresight. He argues that a successful prince must be adaptable, like a lion, using strength, or a fox, using cunning, depending on the situation. This duality of strength and cunning runs throughout the book, reflecting Machiavelli's belief that flexibility is essential for survival. In later chapters, he discusses how to govern, focusing on military power. He insists that a prince must have a strong army loyal to him, not mercenaries, who are unreliable and motivated by money. He criticizes Italian rulers of his time for depending on hired soldiers, which he saw as a state's downfall. Machiavelli also explores the qualities of a prince, offering practical advice on how to appear virtuous while acting ruthlessly when necessary. For example, a prince should seem merciful, faithful, and generous but be willing to break promises or use cruelty if it serves the greater good of stability. This idea of appearances versus reality is central to The Prince, and it's why many accuse Machiavelli of cynicism. Yet, he argues that a ruler who clings to moral ideals at the expense of power risks losing everything. One of the most famous passages is in chapter 17, where Machiavelli debates whether it is better to be feared or loved. He concludes that fear is more reliable because love depends on the goodwill of others, which can be fickle. However, he warns that a prince must avoid being hated, as hatred can spark rebellion. This delicate balance between fear and respect is a recurring theme, showing Machiavelli's nuanced understanding of human nature. He also discusses the importance of advisors, urging princes to choose wise and loyal counselors while avoiding flatterers who distort the truth. Throughout the book, Machiavelli draws on historical figures like Moses, Cyrus, and Romulus as examples of great leaders who used both virtue, meaning skill and competence, and ruthlessness to succeed. In the final chapters, he turns to Italy's political fragmentation, lamenting the country's vulnerability to foreign powers. He calls for a strong, unified Italy led by a prince capable of restoring order, revealing a patriotic side to his writing that some interpret as the true purpose of The Prince. Was Machiavelli advocating for a tyrant? Or was he dreaming of a leader who could save Italy from chaos? This question has fueled centuries of debate. Let's now explore some of the key themes in greater depth. First, there's the concept of virtue, which doesn't mean virtue in the moral sense but rather a combination of strength, intelligence, and decisiveness. A prince with virtue can shape events rather than be controlled by them. This contrasts with fortuna, or fortune, which represents the unpredictable forces of life. Machiavelli's focus on virtue reflects his belief that human agency can overcome chance through careful planning. Another theme is the amorality of politics. Unlike earlier thinkers like Plato or Augustine, who tied governance to ethics, Machiavelli separates the two, arguing that moral actions can lead to ruin if they weaken a ruler's grip on power. This pragmatism is what makes The Prince both shocking and timeless. Critics, however, argue that this approach justifies unethical behavior, and the term Machiavellian has become synonymous with deceit and manipulation. Yet defenders of Machiavelli claim he was a realist, not an immoralist, exposing the harsh truths of politics rather than endorsing them. The book's influence is undeniable, shaping political thought from the Renaissance to today. Figures like Henry VIII and Napoleon reportedly studied The Prince, and its ideas resonate in modern leadership, from corporate boardrooms to international diplomacy. For example, politicians often project an image of integrity while making calculated decisions behind closed doors. Echoing Machiavelli's advice on appearances. In business, CEOs may use strategic ruthlessness to outmaneuver competitors, balancing fear and respect among employees. Even in popular culture, characters like Frank Underwood in House of Cards embody Machiavellian principles, showing the book's lasting grip on our imagination. But The Prince is not without flaws. Some argue it overemphasizes short-term power at the expense of long-term stability, ignoring the role of trust and cooperation in governance. Others question its relevance in democracies, where leaders are accountable to voters, not just their own ambition. Still, even in democratic systems, we see leaders navigating the tension between idealism and pragmatism, suggesting that Machiavelli's insights remain useful. As we wrap up, let's reflect on what The Prince teaches us. It's a book that forces us to confront uncomfortable questions. Can a leader be both effective and ethical? Is power inherently corruptive? Machiavelli doesn't provide easy answers, but he challenges us to think critically about the world we live in. Whether you see him as a villain or a visionary, his work endures because it speaks to the timeless struggle for power and survival. If you've enjoyed this exploration, share your thoughts in the comments. What do you think of Machiavelli's ideas, and how do they apply today? Subscribe for more deep dives into classic works, and until next time, keep questioning the world around you.